begins to blur. A new age of possibility emerges. Where humanity is augmented to achieve what was once thought impossible. Welcome to the age of cybernetics. Push the limits of what we thought was possible. Pushing the boundaries of human potential.
Yo, Descendant Augiesaint here, and as you guys can see, Freyna is absolutely just melting everything. She's so fun to play. I honestly think she is my new favorite character right now. There's so many ways to build her as well, so I just want to let you guys know this is going to be a lengthy video. I'm going to have so many builds to share with you guys, but I will have timestamps down below, so if you want to skip forward to like component sets for certain builds and all the different builds we have, we're going to have 2 different mobbing builds and we're going to have 2 different bossing builds utilizing a couple of her different Transcendence modules. Like I said, there's so many ways to build her. The way that I like to build her is using shield, because this makes you super tanky, and with the new Transcendence mod that is specific to Ultimate Freyna, she just regens her shield at a crazy rate, so you can just be super tanky. You can completely stand in the middle of mobs and they can't even kill you because your shield just regen as long as the ability is up. It's even so strong that I took it into the new fight. I'm pretty much invincible in the new Deathstalker fight, as well as I went back and did all the other fights Tony, as I can take quite a few hits before I actually go down. So the build is very tanky, and it's kind of like a hybrid between a skill build as well as a gun build, because I was actually using my Enduring Legacy while my skill was on cooldown. My Baptism, as you guys know, her ultimate, where she pops out the unique weapon, and I usually ended up between 67 to about 74 million damage on the new Deathstalker fight. So let's say about an average of 70 million is what I ended up with using this build. I think that's pretty damn effective, as well as being so super tanky. And then our mobbing build as well, I have the 2 different variants that I'm going to share with you guys in this video. So without further ado, let's hop straight into the builds. So first up, we have the mobbing build. Now this is going to be the Contagion mobbing build. Just ignore the names up top. The rename function is not working right now. I believe every single word is bugged in the game. You can't like type anything without it being banned. I can't even type hi in the chat. I can't type anything. Let me know if you guys are having this issue as well, and hopefully they do fix it soon so I can actually change and fix up these names. Now this build you can use with or without Contagion, so let's actually speak about the different Transcendence mods before we get into the full build itself. So with Contagion, I want you guys to have a look at your skills. We see all of our skills here are doing room 0 trauma. So that means they've only got that one buff over there. That's a different buff over there. Venom soak, that's something else. That's part of how Putrid Venom works, but everything else is only doing the room 0 trauma. As you can see, it's got a little bit of a skill power modifier there. But if we take off Contagion and we save the loadout, now we see this has another dot called Nightmare, and this has one called Decay, this one has Despair, and then this one has Panic. So by putting on Contagion, you actually do lose quite a bit of damage because you don't have all those dots ticking at once. Depending on the skill you use and throw out, you'll have the corresponding dot, but it is possible to have all of these different dots. So room 0 trauma, Panic, you can have Despair, Decay, and you can also have Nightmare all on the same target. So that is quite a bit of damage if you add that up. It's not very high damage. You see it's like 150 skill power over there, 160, 150, 150, but that is 4 of them all up at the same time if you have all your skills up, especially once you get onto the bosses and the elites and stuff like that. They absolutely just melt away if you do not have them. Now the damage by putting on Contagion is still pretty good in the 400% dungeons, and we get literally the same clear time around with Contagion as well as with my actual AoE build that I prefer myself, the Venom injection build. And this one should do quite a bit more damage because we have all the dots, but the way we have it set up, the build is more comfy, but it loses more damage. So I just wanted you guys to know. That's why I say there's so many different ways you can run. So if you prefer to run Contagion for the explosions and spreading it a little bit easier, the range is about the same on the dot. I believe Contagion is actually a little bit smaller on the spread, but then it has the like sub explosions that make the spread a little bit higher. So with Contagion, you have like a more interesting explodey kind of a playstyle, I guess. Or you could even switch around the build and you can run Venom Synthesis, which will give you a little bit of a movement speed buff because we add this into the mix. And while you have this active, you have a 30% movement speed. So while you're actually sprinting, you will be quite a bit faster, and you'll also be leaving behind toxic footprints, and those will apply your room 0 trauma as well as your decay buff. So you could technically just put this on, run 30% faster, and run through any content without even throwing any of your other skills. And if enemies get hit by these dots, they'll start ticking, they'll die, and they'll leave those puddles, and that will spread into more enemies. So you could literally just press W and win at the game. But you also have your first ability as well as your baptism, so you will have quite a bit of damage and ways to apply damage. So you could run Venom Center there for the movement speed increase. It does feel nice, especially when doing stuff in like a big map. Maybe when you're reactor farming or doing any like outside of a dungeon content, you could run Venom Synth to actually get the movement speed boost. But personally, I prefer the Contagion because of the way when you run Venom Synthesis, you have to change the build a little bit by adding cooldown, because the only AoE that you have at like on demand is going to be your 1. It will be on a 5.6 second cooldown. Now that's not that bad if you think about it, but by adding the extra cooldown, this goes down to like under 3 seconds, and then your baptism also goes down to about 28 seconds. So that's a very strong build. If you do end up running Venom Synth, just make sure that you run another extra cooldown mod. And the one that I would change out would be Decimator, because Decimator is not really all that necessary, especially with all of our stuff doing so much crazy amounts of damage. This doesn't really give you the full 50% of the damage that you would believe. It just gives you, it does give you a boost, but it's not like a crazy boost, so you could get away with actually losing that, because you make up for losing this by gaining all the dots if you do lose Contagion. But you do need to add a cooldown mod, and I didn't feel like catalyzing my Freyna again. I've already catted her 10 times. As you guys can see, we have made quite a few changes. We've been testing so many different ways to set her up, so I just didn't want to go and catalyze her again. Plus, I just personally preferred Contagion after running with Venom Synth for quite a few times. So that's all the info out there. Now let me just break it down for you guys. This is build 1. This is going to be the Contagion build. We're going to set this up with HP amp and increase HP, just giving you a massive 445% increase to your HP. And with our component setup, we have 20,000 HP. So very, very tanky. You can pretty much stand in everything, and you have no threat of dying, even in the 400% dungeons when you get to the bosses at the end, because they do actually hurt quite a bit. They can't really touch you unless you just stand there and take it to the face and you don't do anything about it. But with this, you can drop your poisons and you can just chill and they will die before you do. Now moving over to our damage mods, we have Focus on Tech and Focus on Toxic, mainly picking these up for the extra cooldown that they give on top of the skill power. Over here we have the Toxic skill power plus cooldown, and over there we have the Tech skill power plus cooldown. So all of that cooldown is going to add up and just make everything a little bit more comfy. Together these guys equal up to like 12% cooldown, so that's basically half of number of fingers, plus you're getting the damage, so why not? You could run the blue mods for just flat damage, but then you do lose a whole 12% cooldown, and the damage you gain from the blue mods aren't actually that high. So let's have a look there. You see Tech Specialist is only giving you 76%, where Focus on Tech is giving you 68%. That's really not worth the cooldown loss in my opinion. Moving on, we have these two new mods now, the Toxic Amplification as well as Tech Amp, just boosting our skill power even further, but it will take our skill critical hit rate down -140% and -140 on the skill critical hit damage. So it literally takes us down to like 1% crits, the minimum crit you can be at. You won't really be critting anymore, but you will be getting a massive amount of skill power boost, and that's the only reason why we had to run crit in the past, because we didn't have these. So the only way to actually increase our damage was to be forced to build everything with crit. But now that we actually have a way to boost our skill power even further without crit, I think I'm going to go revisit a bunch of my builds, especially my bunny build, because she has really bad crit, and maybe we'll have to go check out Kyle. There's a lot of Descendants that I'm going to hop into and change. Even Jumping Jack Ajax, I can't wait to jump back on him and try out all these new mods with her. But with Freyna, this works great, and I really like how this feels. So it just gives you a lot of damage there, and you don't have to worry about any crit anymore. So your damage is going to be very consistent. And then moving on, we have Skill Expansion and Maximize Range. Now these two are very important. You want to have as much range as you can get. I would say these two is like the minimum range you want to go with, because if you don't have good range, then the spread's not going to really go very far. When you kill enemies, it's not going to spread all that much. You have to cast your skills a whole lot more. With the way I have this set up with the maximum range Contagion, I can literally throw my 1 run into a room and the room will just chain reaction, explode and kill the whole room. I can just walk into a room and press my 1 and it usually wipes out the whole room without me needing to press any other skills, although we do hit other skills just to make it go a little bit faster. But you could technically just hit your skill once and it's going to spread everywhere and murder everything. And then we have MP conversion over there just for some more skill cooldown, adding on top of the focus on tech and focus on toxic, giving us a 5.6 cooldown on that. We have a 10-second cooldown on this, and then we have a 56-second cooldown on this. So with that cooldown, we can usually get about 3 to 4 uses out of our Venom Baptism per dungeon, depending on how long the dungeon actually lasts. And this thing does a massive amount of damage, especially if you don't run Contagion with the other builds I'm going to show you guys. When you have all the dots ticking, because you'll have this dot ticking, you'll have this dot ticking, and you'll have your Baptism dot ticking, that just all adds up and does a crazy amount of damage. But this skill alone by itself is also very strong, and it is also affected by some mods on your weapon. So make sure you have a weapon equipped with magazine capacity boost and fire rate boost, but I'll talk about that later when we get done with all the builds. Check the timestamps if you guys want to go see that right away. But then lastly, before we move on to the other builds, Decimator is the last mod we are running. Now there you can really run whatever you want. I like to pick up the Decimator just for a little bit of increased boost in damage, since we do lose the dots with Contagion for the increased AoE. But you don't have to run Decimator if you don't want to. You can run MP Collector, you can run HP Collector, you can really run whatever you want. You could even change that out and put another cooldown mod on there. But if you are going to do that, then you may as well drop Contagion, because you don't really need all that cooldown with Contagion, since the spread on this is so massive. So if you wanted to drop this, I would say switch that over to a cooldown mod, keep the HP and everything, switch Contagion off to Venom Synth or any other Transcendence mod. You can even just not use a Transcendence mod at all, and you get the same results pretty much overall. So use whatever you feel like using. This is just the way I have the Contagion build set up. And now let's move over to our other AoE build. This is my preferred AoE build, but I did include this build over here for you guys. Maybe if you don't have a Transcendence mod, or if you like the Contagion build, then that's why I included that. So this is my preferred one. This is going to be focusing on shields. So let me just hop on out and show you guys. We actually have 14,000 shield. We still have the 10,000 defense. Our HP has gone down to 1, but with how this mod actually works, when you have it on, toggled on, it's going to drain your HP down to a certain point. But since we are running overwhelming shield, we're actually at 1 HP. It's just going to immediately start draining our MP. And the way we have it set up, it's costing practically nothing. As you can see there, it is a 3.9 MP cost per second, so very cheap. And the whole point is, once it is stacked up and active and toggled, you get 66% increased skill power, you get tox res increase, you get maximum shield coverage. Now that is with a big bread and butter over here. As you can see, that is a max 5%. That is a maximum of your shield. So if we take 5% of 14k shield we have, that's about 700 shield a second. That's a lot of shield regening. Think about getting your HP back, 700 HP every second. That's almost 1000 HP every second. Well, in our case is 1000 shield that's going to be regenning, and that's constant. As long as the skill is up and you have the MP to feed it, that's going to eat your MP and give you shields as well as all these buffs and damage and everything. Now this one works a little bit differently to the normal body armor. Usually the enemy has to attack you to take effects of it, but this, if you read down below, it says while Toxic Sense is active, attacking an enemy inflicts corrosion on the enemy, and corrosion decreases their toxic resistance by 25%. That's quite a big deal, and also increases their max corrosion activation rate, because sometimes there'll be like a cap of how much corrosion can be applied, or how much your dots can even be applied, like how far your toxin will actually start ticking and stuff, and this is going to increase that cap. So very powerful mod overall. This is actually our bossing mod as well, and it is my mobbing mod, because I really just like playing with shield now with all these new mods, especially since we have a way to regen them all the time. So it's a very easy way to sustain yourself. You don't have to worry about drops anymore. The only thing you have to worry about a little bit is your MP, so make sure you are managing that a little bit. Don't spam all your skills all the time, because you can run yourself out of MP, so just be managing that a little bit. You don't have to manage it too much. You pretty much sit and forget, but if you do go a little bit crazy and start spamming everything, you will kind of run out of MP at some point, and when you do, you'll lose the shield regen, and since you have 1 HP, if you lose all of your shield, you will die. But if you manage it just a little bit, you will be perfectly fine. Super unstoppable and very tanky and massive damage. So let's hop into the build. So obviously we are running Venom Injection. We have increased HP as well as HP amp again. I know this does give you maximum shield negative, but with how overwhelming shield works and we get all of that shield depending on our HP, this actually gives us bigger boost than having some of the other mods here, like Stim Accelerant gives you a little bit more HP, but you would lose MP. And like I said before, MP is really important, because you need MP to keep up your Venom Injection, and we already have a negative MP there with the cooldown mod, so that's why I felt like I didn't want to run this for like minus 30% MP. Then it just doesn't really feel all that great. So that is why we are running HP amp, and then obviously we are running overwhelming shield as well to convert all of that HP over into shield. We have 445% HP there, and that converts into 14,000 shield, also with our module setup, which I will get to once we are done with the modules. If you are looking just for the component set, go check the timestamps. It will be in the video. So moving on, we have maximum shield shield increase over there because it's going to add up on top of all the HP converting and everything. This is going to give you a load of shields. We again have both of the range mods. Like I said to you guys before, we need as much range as we can get. And then we have MP conversion for our cooldown. We have maximize conservation for the skill cost reduction. As you guys know how important it is to keep up Venom injection, so you can constantly regenerating your shields as well as getting all that damage boost. And then lastly, we have the 2 focus on tech and toxic for the skill damage power boost as well as the cooldown on those. But I just really like how this one feels. I do really like this Venom injection. Plus I can still get crazy room clear, and I'm super tanky. I can literally stand in the middle of all the mobs. I can let the bosses hit me, and the shield regen is just absolutely crazy. It's so fun to actually play with a shield character now because of how bad shields have been. So that's why I am really enjoying this one. But like I said, the clear times exactly the same. So if you just want to go the standard route with Contagion and massive HP, that again, super comfy, is exactly the same clear time. So go ahead and play with whichever one it is that you prefer to play with. But now let's actually move over to the component set, because we will be using exactly the same component set as well as the gun setup on both of the mobbing builds, but the bossing builds will have different setups, but we'll come back to them after we've checked out the components for the mobbing build. So first up, you don't really need any of these sets. You will get a little bit more shield over there. But the main thing that you want to be getting on these components is the rolls that I have. You want to get double HP on your auxiliary power. You have HP on the top, HP on the bottom, and make sure it is the higher HP roll. You see it says 646. Now you can get a lower HP roll. I believe it's like 460 something. So just make sure you try and get the highest HP roll on all of the different ones. Now the set that I've actually chosen to use is 2-piece Invader and 2-piece Annihilation, just because of the stats that they provide. Plus the bonus from the 2 sets is not that bad either. But like I said, just focus on the stats. So max HP, most important over there. And then for your sensor, I like to pick up a little bit of defense somewhere. And just by having a little bit of defense, as you can see, we have 10,000 over there, almost 11,000. It's going to make your shields take a little bit less damage. If you take that off when you put an HP one over there, you would drop down to like 2,000 or 3,000 defense. And then you can see the difference when your shield gets hit. It does get hit quite a bit harder. So that's why I like to just spread it up a little bit and have one defense module in there. And then the substats you want to look for on this is max MP and MP recovery. And then for our memory, again, we want max HP on the top line. We want defense and MP recovery modifier. And then lastly, for our processor, we want max HP on the top line again, max shield. And then what you could actually get would be better than what I currently have would be the shield regen modifier, I believe is what it's called. You can get that as well. I just wasn't actually blessed with a good one yet from the new boss, but eventually we'll get one of those, and we're running max shield and then the shield regen. Now let's move over to the Reactor. We want a Secret Garden mounting. The Secret Garden is her best mobbing weapon by far, so make sure you pick yourself up that, get yourself a Reactor. And then the best rolls you could get on the mobbing one would be tech and toxic skill power boost, so both skill power boost ratios, or you could also go with a cooldown one there and then maybe tech or toxic. So personally, that is what I would aim for. The one that I have in the background, unfortunately, is the only Secret Garden Reactor I have, so I kind of use this for my mobbing as well as for my bossing, because I just use my Secret Garden as a stat stick for bossing. It just has to match your Reactor. When you are doing the bossing build, the weapon itself doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the mods on the weapon. I'm going to show you guys that is the next part to this. So those are the components and reactors for the AoE build. Now let me show you guys the weapon mods. This is still for the AoE build, but this is exactly the same for the bossing build, as we just keep it on this for our Freyna. The only mods that matter on this weapon is sharp precision shot. It's going to give you that fire rate while you are in the Venom baptism. As long as you don't stop shooting, you will gain that, and it's actually going to build up. And that's how you get through your whole magazine of Venom Baptism before the duration actually runs out. Because if you hold down the trigger, your fire rate is going to just start increasing up to 10 stacks with sharp precision shot. So very important that you pick that up. Then we have compulsive magazine as well as expand weapon charge, because you get the rounds per magazine bonus, 49% over there and 39% over there. It's going to give you quite a lot extra, and that's going to add up onto your Venom Baptism, because the Venom Baptism doesn't pull from your actual weapon's ammo capacity. Like the Secret Garden with these mods, I believe we have about 90 bullets or something, whereas you would think if you put Enduring Legacy on, which starts with like 110 or something like that, but with mods it's at like 170 rounds. That's not going to give you an increased rounds on your Venom Baptism, as it only accounts for the rounds per magazine increase. So just these mods themselves are going to increase the 45 rounds from the Venom Baptism, and it's not going to go off of the weapon. So that's why I say you could use any weapon for her bossing build. Just for the mobbing build, you want to use the Secret Garden, important because of the special effect that it has of the increased skill power when you use a tech skill. So that's why I would say Secret Garden best for mobbing. Doesn't really matter what you use for bossing as long as it connects to your Reactor. And then the last mod that matters is the fire rate up mod. So those are is the only thing that will matter for your Venom baptism, and it's exactly the same for the bossing as well as for the mobbing setup. Then now let's have a look at our bossing builds. We have a solo bossing build setup, and then we have the group boss build, which I have set up to run the Deathstalker boss fight very easily and comfortably. We're getting around 70 million damage average on that, using it as like a hybrid gun slash skill build. So I really do enjoy that one. But for now, let's focus on the solo bossing. This is going to be used for everything pre-Swampwalker, as obviously we can't one phase him since he is super resistant to toxic. First up, we have Venom injection. We have stim accelerant for a little bit of HP, which we are converting to shields with overwhelming shield. It just makes it much easier to maintain this Venom injection. Although it doesn't really matter, you could potentially drop both of these and try and put in some more damage if you want. But the way we have this set up, no boss is living at all for the solo bosses, but then you do just have a little bit of shield with 3188 shield, which the bosses will die instantly pretty much anyway, so it doesn't really matter all that much. We're just using it to fuel Venom injection. And then moving on to the damage mods, we have tech and toxic amplification for the increased boost there to toxic and tech skill power. We are losing out on the crit, but it's way more consistent to not have to crit and just increasing your flat damage overall. All the bosses get melted using it this way. And then we have toxic specialist as well as tech specialist, because in this build we can give up the cooldown since we are going to be one phasing the bosses anyway. You might as well squeeze out that little bit of damage you could get. And then we have Venom Syntium for even more toxic skill power, since again we are going to be one phasing these bosses. Skill extension, this is very important because it gives you enough duration to actually get through your whole magazine on Venom baptism. And the way we have our weapon setup, which I showed you guys before with the fire rate mods, you will be able to get out all your shots before it actually does expire. Then we have Spear and Shield over there again just for some more skill power. And lastly, we have Dangerous Ambush for another skill power modifier, and even more when the boss does get immobilized, so when they fall down and they take a knee. So that is going to be your solo build. That's going to absolutely shred bosses, no problems, pre-Swampwalker that is. So don't take this into a fight after Swampwalker or even Swampwalker itself. It will not work. Pre-Swampwalker, super easy. Go have fun, delete everything. And then the component set we'll be running is the Slayer set, as we're going to get a little bit of rounds per magazine, which is then going to equate over to your Venom baptism, giving you a few more rounds. But most importantly, we're going to be using it for the 26% skill power boost, as again this is just purely focusing on damage to one phase all of the solo farming bosses. And then the way we have our Secret Garden set up for the bossing is exactly the same way as for the mobbing. I'll just show you guys there so you can double check if you maybe skip further into the video, but that's how we have that set up. The only important things being the double magazine mods, as well as the fire rate over there and the sharp precision shot. Everything else does not matter. And again, the gun also does not matter. You just have to match it with your reactor. And then the best bossing reactor I would actually say is what I have right here, is the additional Colossus as well as the tech skill boost ratio. Colossus mandatory, and then whatever else you get, if you get a toxic skill boost or a tech skill boost, either or is what I would say would be the best other role for a bossing reactor on both of the different bossing builds. And now let's have a look at the group bossing build. Now this is the one that I have been using. It's like the hybrid build that I've made. We're sitting actually pretty good with 10,000 shields with the way I have it set up. For me, it works perfectly. You can actually get a little bit more shield than that if you would like, but with the 10,000 and the Venom injection, we're just regenning, and we haven't had any issues fighting the new boss on stream. So come check us out over at twitch.tv/Augiesaint. We are farming a new boss with chat, just having a fun time over there, especially with Freyna. So much fun. I really do like this character. So moving on to the build, we are running increased shield for max increase down shields. We're running increased HP, and then we're actually converting that HP over again overwhelming shield, as this mod is just so good now after they actually gone ahead and fixed it, giving us the 10,000 shields as you guys saw earlier. And then we are running focus on tech and focus on toxic for a little bit of skill power boost, as well as the cooldown is the main reason we're running that alongside nimble fingers. As you guys can see, we chose to go with nimble fingers over the other cooldown mod that has the MP reduction, as like I said before, we want to try and maintain this as much as we can to give us that massive shield regen. And we are running skill extension for the duration on our Venom baptism whenever we are using it. This is kind of like a hybrid build, because you will use your Venom baptism when it is up. It is on quite a lengthy cooldown of 68 seconds, but we will be applying our other dots as well, and just having that duration will increase all of your dots durations, but mainly it's just going to help us get through that Venom baptism, as we do get quite a bit of damage from this. And then moving back, we have maximize conservation for the skill cost reduction so that we can maintain our Venom injection. We are running this in conjunction conjunction with the energy collection, as this is boosting our MP recovery. This is in combat and out of combat. I've actually been sleeping on this mod now for quite a while. It's quite decent, and it does help a lot with the MP modifiers, especially if we do have MP modifier on our component set, which we do, which we'll get to in a minute. It's going to all add up and just give you all of that increased MP recovery. So we can get this almost to a point where this barely drains anything at all, and by killing a few mobs in the map, which we will be doing by dropping our poison puddles, we'll be killing mobs. So mob management super easy. The dot's going to get onto the boss, then our component set is going to work with that, and it just all works really well together. And then last but not least, we have shot focus on here as well. I did try with and without shot focus, and I did get more damage overall per run by running shot focus, as this is going to give us more damage when we are using our guns, but less damage when we are using the Venom Baptism. Also, when we actually remove this, we only get about 2k extra damage per shot on the Venom Baptism, so it goes from like 99k down to 97k per shot. So it's really not all that much of a difference. But then the 15% firearm attack is boosting the Enduring Legacy quite a bit. If we are like over a longer fight, so like a 4 or 5 minute fight, we are going to get quite a bit of use out of this. And again, this is just such a good general mobbing setup. It is doing a lot of damage against the boss that is resistant to toxic. So that's why I think this is just such a good fun setup, especially by having the shield that we can regen all the time. So now let's move over to the component set. We are actually using the new component set, the Distorted Resolve set. Now this set is actually really interesting. Now the 2 set doesn't really do that much for us, as we are using a machine gun. You can see the Enduring Legacy counts as a machine gun, so we don't get the submachine gun or the assault rifle bonus. But what we're going to be using this for mainly is the 4 set. So if we scroll on down there, increases your toxic skill power by up to 7.15% based on HP lost relative to max HP. When your current HP is at 1, your toxic skill power is boosted by 14.3. So that's already half of the Slayer set with much better defensive stats, because every single piece of this has maximum HP. As you can see, max HP, HP, and then all of that HP is getting converted into shields because of our overwhelming shield mod. Have a look back at the 4 set, what the rest of it does. You have a 5% chance to recover 3.2% shield each time you inflict an enemy with a debuff, and since we're pretty much going to be trying keeping up a dot ticking on the boss at all times by just applying our 1, we're going to always have a debuff ticking on the boss, applying that, so we'll be getting a massive amount of shields, because 3.2% is going to be of our 10,000 shields. So that's quite a bit of regen that we will be getting. Obviously it's not going to happen very often, as you see it's only a 5% chance, but all of that added on top of the regen from the Venom injection itself is just going to add up to pretty much invincibility, unless you know, like stand under the boss and just let it wail away at you without even moving at all. You will end up dying. And then moving on to the next part of this is successful part destruction grants you 5 stacks of exaltation. Now this does actually count for if a teammate does break a part on the boss. Whenever a part gets broken on the boss, you will get 5 stacks of this. It lasts for 300 seconds, and then what it does is it fires a guided projectile towards the Colossus on skill attack. So like I said before, we're going to try and keep up one of our dots on the boss at all times. You don't want to be spamming too much on the boss, because you do have a good duration. I believe your 1 lasts for about 13 seconds, so you can rotate between your 1 on the boss and then your 3 skill, which is the big Venom pool you can chuck on the mobs to really just deal with the mobs and the boss all at the same time. That's what makes this build so comfy. And then you'll also be getting that extra little proc over there. It deals an additional toxic damage equivalent to 9.7% of your skill power, and then it inflicts Desolation. If we have a look there, Desolation, all of the attacks of the Colossus 0.5% up to 5 stacks. So it's going to be a 2.5% damage reduction from the Colossus, because as you can see, the all attack of the Colossus is going down, so the Colossus can do a little bit less damage to the group, and I believe this might even stack with multiple sets. I'm not sure about that since we have not tried that out yet, but maybe we'll do that tomorrow on stream. We're going to try that out with the chat. But that is why I do really like running this set, and it just works so good as it is maximum HP on everything. Convert that with shields, we get so many bonuses from the set, and it just feels so good to actually be able to use this set. And this is just purely made for Freyna and just going to go do bossing. So I'm really happy that we were able to put this build together, and it feels so good to have like a hybrid build. It's the first kind of like a hybrid build I've actually made. Either I usually go like a gun build, so gun Haley and stuff like that, Enzo, or I go a full skill build, something like Lepic or, you know, skill Haley. So I've really liked putting this together. Let me know what you guys think of this. It took a lot of testing to actually get this out to you guys, so sorry it took so long, but as you guys can see, we have been cooking. So I'm gonna love you guys and leave you. I know this is probably like a 10-hour video, so hopefully you guys actually made it through. If you made it this far, comment down below what is your favorite asset about Freyna. I think we all know it's the fishnets, boys. So I actually love Freyna. She's probably going to be my new main from now on. I just love how she has so much build diversity, and we haven't even figured out everything yet, because we have been working on another build, which I'll get to you guys in another video. I think this mod might actually be bugged right now, as I've tried to make a build around it, and it actually just felt very underwhelming. So hopefully this can get fixed soon, then we can make a full-on gun platform Freyna. and I'd like to see how that all goes. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you did, please drop a like and sub to the channel. It helps me out so much, and I'll catch you beautiful people on the next video as well as the live streams. Augiesaint out.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the